Interestingly, that puts to rest issues surrounding rumors all around that the CBN governor being sacked or not being sacked. He said it. He's still in office. His tenure expires June the 3rd. So anything after that, we would get to know. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is set to build additional independent power plants in Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano. The proposed plants are expected to add 4,000 megawatts of power to stabilize the national grid. The National Oil Company also disclosed that it would construct a fertilizer plant in Brass, that's in Bayelsa State. Chairman of the board of an NPC power subsidiary, Gas and Power Investments Company, Isiaka Abdul-Razak, says the fertilizer project in Brass, Bayelsa State would produce fertilizers to boost agriculture in the South and other regions of the country. So our focus for the day now, the trade volume between Nigeria and Netherlands, well, report shows that it stands at $3.3 billion. That's about 1.2 trillion naira. Well, that's at the first quarter of 2018. Well, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, in Q1 last year, Netherlands is one of Nigeria's largest trading partner. Nigeria is working assiduously to diversify its export base and increase non-oil exports from Nigeria to the Netherlands, in line with the present administration's economic recovery and growth plan. The total is composed of imports from the Netherlands, worth $729 million, and exports to Netherlands of $2.3 billion. Nigeria, therefore, has a healthy trade surplus with Netherlands. Crude oil accounts for more than 70% of Nigeria's exports to the Netherlands. Well, interestingly, I have the head of Netherlands representation in Lagos and also the deputy head of the mission, Abuja, Michelle Derling. He's live in the studio for us to look more in this. Michelle, it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start this way. Business relations between Nigeria and Netherlands. How has it been? Tell us your experience. I know you've been in Nigeria for some time, but how has it really been? How cordial would you say it is?
It's getting better every year, I would say. We have long-standing relations with Dutch companies that have invested in Nigeria, let's say, since the days of independence. Think of companies like Nigerian Breweries or Unilever. They've been here, Wamco, Peak Milk. They've been here all along, basically Nigeria's history, helping to create jobs and to build Nigeria. But now we want to expand that. We want to go further. We want to attract more companies from the Netherlands to invest in Nigeria. And by the way, also the other way around. Find companies from Nigeria who want to invest in the Netherlands. I think that's also a good thing to emphasize. So what we're looking at since, let's say, 3-4 years is more investment in the agriculture sector. And that's in line with Nigeria's government policy to look for growth in the non-oil sector. And part of that is agriculture.
Very interestingly, that agricultural aspect interests me every time I hear about it. All the efforts of government here, how would you assess it? Are we getting there? Are we on the right track with the way we are going about diversifying our economy?
Yes, I think you are. I mean, there was already, you made mention of the growth and recovery program. And I think that's part of it. So that first you make an analysis of where the gaps are, what you can do, and then you look around for who can assist you in that. And in this case, we have very good contacts with the Nigerian Ministry of Agriculture, Nigerian Ministry of Trade and Industry in Abuja. And they are on that line of promoting further agricultural development. And we've had several discussions and meetings with them to see how we can assist. And I think the highlight in that for the last year was the visit of President Buhari to the Netherlands. That was so half a year ago. He came to the Netherlands together with the Ministry of Agric and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They visited several horticultural institutes in the Netherlands, and a memorandum of understanding was signed between our two countries. And that would sort of foster the bilateral relations on a government-to-government basis in the field of agriculture, in the field of investment and business. Now, of course, we all know we're talking about the private sector, basically. So it's nice that government talk to each other and find a common way to assist and to move forward. but the real growth has to come from the private sector. So that's the next step that we're focusing on.
Private sector. Now, before we move away from agriculture, mechanizing agriculture, making it attractive to the youth, seems to be something that needs to be done in this part of the world. I would also like to be a farmer, but I wouldn't like to go through the cutlasses, the hoes, and all of that. How is it done in your country compared to what we have here?
In my country, we see a situation, but I wouldn't want to compare that directly. But just to give you a sketch, in my country, we see a situation that, let's say, for the past 50 years, the number of people employed in the agricultural sector has really gone down now to about 4% of the population, while the volume of production went up. And that is through mechanization. You know, my grandfather was a farmer, but none of his children took over the farm because it wasn't interesting, it was too small. So farms have grown bigger with less people. Now, in the Nigerian case, of course, mechanization is clearly the next step. It is key, because you have, let's say you basically have two groups of farmers in Nigeria, which can be compared to what you had in the Netherlands. Those who farm simply because that's their way of subsistence and their small livelihood just for their own consumption and maybe for their extended family, and those who actually sell products on the market. And it's that second group that you would actually want to assist in growing, in becoming more professional farmers and mechanized farmers. So the introduction of tractors, the introduction of control of the soil, which type of soil do you have, which fertilizer do you use, which type of seeds do you use, all of that can, actually it's not that complicated, can result in a high increase in yields. And I think that's something that we need in Nigeria to feed the population. Really remarkable there. Now, another thing that worries me here is crude oil accounts for like 70% of Nigeria's exports to the Netherlands. We are still doing more of crude oil exports to your country. You are. I mean, this is the reality on ground as we live now in 2019. I think in 10 years' time that will be very, very different. Globally, crude oil plays a different role. You see more and more vehicles moving from petrol to electrical, so we're moving in that direction. Gas replaces crude oil in many, many cases. Now, of course, Nigeria has abundant gas reserves, so I think the role of Nigeria in the gas sector will become much more important in the near future. But yeah, it's true that the bulk of that trade is actually crude oil that is sent to refineries in Rotterdam or in Amsterdam, and from there sold all over the world. So it's not only for our domestic consumption, it's refined in the Netherlands and then sold on. But what we try to accomplish is that in the non-oil sector, we get to see the numbers, the trade numbers and the figures, and that would be on the increase. And as I said, that can be agriculture, but it can also be services. It could also be banking. It could also be ICT. Like we all know the brilliant Nigerian whiz kids in the computer business and so on. That's a service that you can export worldwide. That's true. But in all of this, we have some challenges, I know. One time we had issues with Forex and all of that. Tell us, what challenges are people, our business community in your place maybe doing with us? What challenges do they face? Yeah, there are always challenges which you can see very simple on these. Every year, the World Bank publishes a list of the so-called ease of doing business list. And the Nigerian government realizes that there is an issue, that it is not easy to do business in Nigeria because of many reasons. So the government already put in place different committees to look at these issues. It's a matter of land rights or taxation or collateral or visa could be, or entrance of your products through the ports, registration of products with NAFDAC or with SON. All these things can be perceived as bottlenecks, but should not be, because there's a good reason why we have customs and taxation and NAFDAC, but it should work in an efficient way. And that's what the Nigerian government is looking at. And it's also something that we try to assist the government with technical assistance to see basically how that can be computerized. Because I think that if you do automation on many of these things like customs and taxation, the process becomes more transparent. and there's less space for confusion, let's call it that way. So then you don't have transactions anymore. You would just have computer databases whereby you would say, okay, this is the tariff I have to pay on the importation of this product, and you pay it automatically without any things in between. So one of the things you asked me about what are Dutch business people facing in Nigeria, I would say is in relation to importation and the practices also, the simple thing, the road to the port. How can you import something if the road to the port is already that bad? Now, I'm not saying we should import many things in Nigeria, not more than necessary. We can make things here, of course, but then you need electricity and other things in that context.
On a final note, now let's wrap this up now. How do we strengthen ties? Because we as Nigerians, we need foreign exchange from countries like yours. How can we strengthen ties and make things smoother?
By knowing each other. By knowing each other. It's a matter of having those contacts and knowing who is the person on the other side to deal with. In the end of March, we're bringing in a trade mission in the agricultural field, together with a group of Dutch seed companies, together with some people from the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture, and that will be the last week of March. They will travel around the country. They'll start in Lagos to see how we can assist Nigeria, the government, the farmers, basically that whole sector in horticulture, in improving seed qualities in Nigeria. So how can we assist? By way of us knowing who are the players in Nigeria, and the players in Nigeria knowing who are the government and the countries and the companies in the Netherlands.
That's great. Michel Derling, thank you very much for your time on the show. I must really say I appreciate you coming on set. Talking about Nigeria-Netherlands business relations, you are really the right person to talk about that. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.